Welcome. My name is Randy Kay, and I guess you would call this a special episode of Heaven Encounters. My guest today is the CEO of Noble Gold Investments. His name is Collin Plume, and he is the CEO of that company. The reason we're talking about this today is because over 400 times in the Bible, gold is mentioned. Obviously, God thinks a lot about gold. The gold that we've seen in heaven, of many of those I've interviewed. And we're going to be talking about some things that are relevant to you today. Collin, it's great to be with you today.
Randy, thanks for having me on. Excited to chat with you and chat, open up this idea to your audience, and just looking forward to a fun conversation.
Amen. And I think today especially, we need to be wise, and wise in terms of our investments is very important to God.
Yes.
For kingdom work and for just supporting families and things of that nature. I guess probably the point at which I'd like to start is the $1 million question, which is, why should people buy gold today?
Right. Yeah. It maybe it's the $1 billion question. Who
Right. I
knows?
think inflation has turned it to a billion now.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So Randy, I've been doing this for 17 years, and nothing happens by accident. As a child, I received silver coins from my grandfather. My grandfather basically had silver, they call it junk silver, but they're basically pre 1965 silver coins, quarters, dimes, half dollars. And he put them out on the table and he said, "Guess how much these are worth?" And I think I was 9 years old at the time. And the quarters were worth at that time maybe like 50 cents because they had actual silver. They had 90% silver in it. And the dimes were worth more. Everything was worth more than the face value of the coin. And it was hard for me to understand as a child, like why was this worth more than what the government said it was worth? And it really opened my mind to this idea of what is money, what is value, and I started to think about it as a young person, and he gave me those coins. And so I had those. And then I went off in my career and I worked in the insurance business and I sold commercial real estate. And then I had a bunch of health issues. I've had basically the lower half of my body, two fake hips, foot surgery. I've had a lot of stuff. So I had to transition out of real estate for a short time and I fell into precious metals again. This was like 17 years ago. And I felt like I finally came home and it was a full circle moment. And I think that in today's world, the thing that draws people to this is that gold is the purity of gold is something, and it being currency has something that's been around forever, for as long as humans have been transacting in business. For 5,000 years people have been using gold as a bartering instrument. And so it's, as much as the world has changed, and it has changed a lot, there are certain things that are fundamental to a society, and having something to transact business with that is fungible is important, and it keeps a society going. So it's part of the reason that gold and silver and platinum palladium have done so well recently, is because of this just basic need of having a currency that is limited and has value. And it talks about it so many times in the Bible. There's so many mentions of gold. There's some negative mentions of gold too, that, God obviously recommends that we don't overemphasize money and wealth too. There's also this, idea that it's too much in your life, and you're seeking things that um, are also maybe not important. People go too far with material wants, and they talk about that too. But on the positive, it really talks about the purity of gold and the value of gold, and there's just many different ways that it's referenced in the Bible. So it's there's a lot we can go into, but fundamentally, it's currency, it's money.
Yeah. Well, one of the, in praying before we came up with this interview idea, I felt the Lord really wanted to encourage our listeners to invest wisely in this particular era of uncertainty. Of course, we've been living in uncertainty for modern times, but particularly now, because I'll give you an example. So, Colin, my wife and I went for breakfast the other day. So we paid cash. We put cash when the bill came, and the person came. The manager of the uh, breakfast restaurant came
Right,
back, and she said, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't accept cash."
right.
And I thought, wow, this is the era we're living in, where cash, you always thought cash was safe. People would,
Mhm.
tuck it in ages past, and maybe today even under their mattress for safety. But it's not. We're
Yeah.
we're turning into a cashless society. So I was thinking that in prayer, I was thinking, Lord, where can people go? Where's the security? And so I thought about gold and precious metals. That maybe that's the security. Is that where we're trending? I mean, in a cashless society where gold then becomes the security that cannot be taken.
Well, and they got rid of the penny too.
Yeah,
If you
right.
saw that on the news. So yeah, I mean, the government is and society is sort of trying to push you away because they want control. Um, the control, when it's a digit, goes to the banks and the government, and it takes it out of your hands. And have always said this, that if you really think about it, gold and silver are the last private investments in the world. It's
Hmm.
really the last thing that you own by yourself, and having that control. And I know people that pay for things with silver. I have a mechanic who says that if his clients have silver, he'll take the silver over the dollars. And if you look at, there's about 15 states in the US that will accept gold to pay off a debt or a tax in that state. And a lot of the states are moving in that direction. And it makes perfect sense for a state to accept gold. They would much prefer taking, gold over dollars, because the dollar, like this year alone, the dollar's lost over 11% in value. So if someone paid in gold earlier this year, that government made basically 11% profit on accepting gold as opposed to cash. Plus, gold is up, you know, 40% this year too. So it's twofold. Um, and something I wanted to discuss with you, Randy, is something that I've been really looking at and studying a lot is the crash of 1929. And what a lot of people don't realize in the crash in 1929, when the stock market collapsed, is that the reason, one of the main reasons the stock market collapsed in 1929 was not that alone the stock market was overvalued. It wasn't just that. It was that 70% of the stock that was owned was leveraged. And what happened was everyday investors lost because they didn't have enough cash to cover their bet. And I feel like that's so reminiscent, Randy, of what's happening today, because our debt is so high, our state debt, we don't have enough assets behind it so many times to back up the bet, right? And that's a big reason why we saw that collapse, because I do feel the stock market is highly overvalued. And I wonder if people have enough to back up the bet, similar to 1929. So much of the market back then was built on debt. It wasn't like people just buying stocks; they were just leveraging stocks. And so I do think about that in today's world is this debt society that we've created, that we're living on debt. And in simple terms, everyone can see it, because look what happened with real estate as soon as rates went up. Nobody
Hmm.
was transacting business anymore.
Right.
Nobody could afford homes anymore.
Right.
Even though historically our rates are still well below historical rates. 6% mortgages are historically at least 100 to 150 basis points below our 50-year average. So even though it's cheaper today, it's still unattainable for people. And so I think that's another reason why gold plays an important part for a portfolio, is because it's one of the few things, if you buy it like how we do it, where you buy the physical thing, you own it. There's no debt, there's no counterparty risk. It's your investment that you have. And I think that gives people a lot of comfort. And a lot of people tell me that before they buy, they'll call us, they'll talk to somebody, a representative, a live person here in the US, and they'll sleep and pray on it. And they may pray for a night or a few nights or a month or a few months. And I always say and our staff says, that is amazing. That's exactly what you should do in a situation like this. You should pray on it. You should think, because you're deciding on something for your family. So it's important that we're talking today, because so many people tell us that they pray before they buy from us, and I love that conversation, because then they've really, like, not only thought about it from a numbers and cents, but just also from a spiritual sense, that they slept on it and they felt good about
Yeah. Because I think in a volatile environment financially, and every environment financially is volatile to some extent, as you talked about the housing industry. But the security of an investment is most important in times that are down and up, because gold has appreciated, and others have not appreciated in some cases. And it's interesting, Colin, that you bring up the depression and what happened there, because I actually I wasn't in the depression, obviously, but my grandfather was. And I remember going to Keokuk, Iowa, and he had gathered some gold, because he knew. And my grandfather was not wealthy by any stretch. He ran a grocery store in a garage, basically, in a small town. But the long short of it is, we went to see where he stored the gold. Somebody got a payday that day when they went to this tiny apartment, and they went into the attic, and they found this gold stored, because he knew, even then, as people were storing gold. I mean, they were just storing gold during those times, because they knew that gold was something that would hold its value as everything else was crashing around, when everyone basically became poor.
it. Right.
And so I think one of the detractors, that I think people have, is they think, well, how does it work? Do I get gold in the mail, and where do I put it? And kind of the logistical aspects of it. Is it on paper? Is it a certificate? So
Correct.
tell us how this works.
Yeah. And I say it's one of the great questions that we get, and I would always answer it in a certain way. But then Hope, who's our director of sales, who's been with us for a long time, she explained it to me in a really interesting way, that the thing about gold is that people always call and say, like, I don't know anything about it, and they actually know a lot about gold. Actually, everyone knows a lot about gold. If I mean, from jewelry to, it's used in heart monitors, to the Bible. So actually, people know more about it than they know. Now, how to buy it? There's three different ways you can buy gold. You can buy it on the stock exchange, through an ETF. And that's one way to buy it. You would buy it in a portfolio. Um, the pro of that is that it's a digit, right? And you buy a share of something. So it's easy that way. The downside is, if you do research, and especially right now, there's been quite a number of shortages in these exchanges where they don't have enough gold to back up the contracts. And a lot of data suggests that for every one paper contract, or for every 300 paper contracts, there's actually 1 ounce of gold or 1 ounce of silver. So you're not actually getting the thing that you want. You're just sort of playing the stock market game. So that's one way to do it. You could also leverage that too, which I wouldn't recommend. Um, the other way you could buy is you could buy like mining stocks. There's ways you can buy stocks of companies that go out and mine. And we have clients that do that. Now, obviously, inherently, there's much more risk because you're betting on a company and they have to find the gold. They have to pull it out of the ground at a price that exceeds their cost to do so. So that's, another way to do it. The way that we do it is you actually buy the actual item, and we can either ship it directly to you, and it comes in a nondescript package, and we have a very secure way of shipping where the delivery person doesn't know what you're getting. You get a tracking number, you have to sign for it. We follow up with you incessantly. I mean, we call you, we text you, and we have an impeccable track record of getting packages to the person. So if it was coming to you, Randy, like, we would call you so many times and email you, be like, it's enough. I'm ready for this package. But it's really important because people get so many packages today from Amazon. They don't think it's important, but we are shipping something that is actually very important and very valuable, but it could be a small box. I mean, you can fit $1 million of gold in a shoebox. So, so we follow it all the way to the end, right? And you open it and you cut open, and the package is wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. And then that's a whole other thing. You need the cutter, and you open it up and you have your gold bars or your gold coins. And we make you sit and look at them and verify it's exactly the amount you purchased. We've already authenticated it at our end, but if you wanted to, you could take it somewhere. So absolutely, you can store it at your doorstep. And I happy to say, we've shipped over $2 billion to people's doorsteps. So we've done a lot in delivery to people. So that is a good way to do it. And like I said, you can fit $1 million of gold in a shoebox. You don't need a huge safe to put a lot of gold. Silver is bulkier too, but you could obviously do silver. So we do gold, silver, platinum, palladium. You can get any four of the metals. So that's one way. Another way is if you have an IRA or an old 401k. And I'll tell you a quick story. This morning, I got a note from one of our sales associates of a lady that this is the great part of my business. Is a lady called us 4 years ago, and she said, I think I have a 401k, but I don't know where it is. And we helped her source it. And she basically had like, I don't know, $20,000 in this 401k. It had been sitting in an old company. She forgot about it, but then sort of remembered. She rolled it over. And just this morning, I got a note because that 20,000 is worth about $60,000 today in value.
Mm.
And she actually sent us a note and just said, like, thank God for Noble Gold, because she didn't have a lot of money, right? It was just like something that she saw our ad, and it just sort of all came together at the right time. And so we can do IRAs too. So an old 401k turns into an IRA. We help you with the paperwork. Any IRA we can do, SEP, traditional, and then we would help you through the paperwork. And the nice thing for her is it's all tax deferred, right? It's all in that IRA account. And that is actually has to be stored in a segregated vault in Texas or in Delaware. And I actually went to the depository a few weeks ago, and I actually go and I check a few hundred accounts, and I do an audit of it. So that's the other way. So the two ways with us, we ship it to you, you store it, and then at a later time, if you need to get it back to us and sell it, we can do that, or we can store it for you in a segregated facility. It's all insured through Lloyd's of London, all replacement cost. We've never had an issue. We've been storing there. I've been in the business for 17 years. I've been storing this facility for 10 years. We've never had an issue. So that would be the other way to do it. But I think the first thing usually is just to call us and talk to somebody, a live person, and build like a relationship. That's typically what I would recommend.
And how does a person contact Noble Gold Investments?
You can call us at 877-646-5347. Obviously, you'd want to mention that you heard about us on the show with Randy and that you'd mention the name, because we do have some promotions tied to you. There'll also be a link attached with information, and we have guides for for free guides for gold and silver and platinum, palladium. So we can send you a ton of information, but typically we recommend call or get the free information and then just, go and ask 50 questions to our person and get comfortable and ask about their experience and who they are. Everyone at our company owns gold and silver. Everyone's been doing this for at least 5 years. Some have been doing it above 10 years. And we just like to build relationships with people, and it's a family business. I own the business. I founded it. Reputation is, so important to us. So you can, check out our reviews everywhere. It's really important to us, but really we build relationships with people. And because we know a lot of times, like, you'll buy it, Randy, and then maybe you never sell it. You give it to your kids, and now we're talking to your kids. Like, we know this relationship could go on for decades. So we want to have that open dialogue. We're not like everything online kind of business. We're actually like real people. Like, you talk to people here. So that's something that we really pride ourselves on.
Yeah, and we really were looking for someone who supports our values
Mhm.
and what our ministry is about, and so that's how this came about. And one of the questions came from a friend of mine who's a retired CFO of EF Hutton.
Okay.
And I've asked him in the past, I said, gold or silver, which is the better investment? Which one appreciates the most? You're the expert. Maybe you can advise us. If somebody were to buy one or the other, is it a mixed portfolio, or is it where's the trend line now?
Yeah, I think it changes. I think right now, I mean, silver's up 100% this year, but if you look at what silver can do, like what it actually functions, the industrial functions of silver, it does mirror a lot of what's going on with our economy. In that, I believe that who controls energy controls the world, and the AI is part of this, right? Solar is part of this, electricity is part of this. Silver is a component in all of those functions. And so the three things to look at are solar energy, right? Solar panels, silver is used in that. Electric vehicles, silver is used in that. And then AI, everyone's talking about AI and the computing but one part of that is how do you keep those machines um, from overheating? And a big part of that is these data centers require silver. So everything in those three areas have a silver component to it. So if you think that those areas will continue to grow, then the demand for silver, because it's the perfect metal for connectivity, and that's why people use it. I actually wrote a book called "Silver is the New Oil." It's on Amazon. So I wrote a book that came out actually about a year ago. It came out December 20th of last year, and I talk about all the uses of silver. And I silver was sitting at about $28.70 when my book came out, and it's sitting at $58 today. Um,
Mm.
so, and my prediction for silver was to hit $58, but I thought it was going to hit it next year. So it actually hit the number that I anticipated much faster. Um, so I would say gold is the thing you always have to own, because central banks are going to buy it and they'll continue to buy it. And actually, last month was the biggest buying of gold this year. Even at above a $4,000 price, the central banks bought almost 60 tons of gold. So I think that you should always have gold, but I think if you're looking at pure profit, silver's got a lot of room. And I know it's even above its all-time high, but I've seen reports, and I do think that it has a runway to get to 80 or $100 an ounce.
Wow, wow. Yeah, and it's in the Bible. It's all over the Bible. We mentioned at the beginning of this program, it's over 400 references to gold and precious metals. Jesus received it from, that's what supported his ministry was part of that were precious metals. And it's mentioned in Job 2010,
Yes.
First Peter, I think 1:7, and multiple places. What's interesting, I think, also, Colin, from my interviews, is that almost across the board, those that I've interviewed who've had near death or afterlife experiences have witnessed the golden pass of heaven. Now, if that's not, if, if that is not a support of gold that you find it in heaven, uh, maybe it's not the gold that we have on earth, but that it's something that God obviously values, and in these times, I think it's important for us to consider it prayerfully as well. We'll have all of the links in the body of this message, so you can go there. Um, Somebody that is watching this now, Colin, and thinking, I don't have a whole lot. I don't. If I tie it up in this, will I be able to sell it? How would I sell it in the event of something that happens personally or financial crisis? And you know, is it for the wealthy only? I mean, a lot of people think, well, no, I don't have a lot of money. It's for wealthy people, not me. How would you respond to that, please?
I think I have young people that come to me. I have people of all ages that come to me that ask this very specific question, and I always say that it's important to think about how you're protecting your family in any crisis. And we get calls every day that people that need money, that they bought gold and silver from us, that they need it for their house or health reasons, or they need to give money to a family member. That's the beauty behind this. And that's the thing that when I was talking about real estate, that's the hard part about real estate, even though I do believe in real estate as an investment, is that real estate is not liquid at the time. I mean, listen, it can be liquid, but you don't want to sell it typically in a fire sale type of scenario, because you're going to lose significant value if you have to move things quickly. Gold and silver are not like that. You're going to get, whatever the market is on that day, and you can liquidate it anywhere. We buy back from our clients and we do it every day. But if you moved abroad or if you wanted to go anywhere else, there is always a market and a desire for gold. And, even though there's been this renewed interest in gold, people in the US still hold a significantly lower percentage of gold than other places in the world, like India, the Middle East. They hold significantly more of their net worth in gold than Americans do. They say between 2 and 3% of their net worth in the US is gold. Um, Big institutions, Morgan Stanley came out a few weeks ago and suggested that Americans should hold closer to 20% of their retirement in gold. And I was sort of outstanded. Like, I'd never heard of anyone recommending that, but Morgan Stanley did. They said, as you
Wow.
said, based on the volatility, based on our general distrust in the markets and the government and things that are happening, that they recommend a much higher number than what we've recommended in the past. Ultimately, it's up to the person. We are just a conduit to what the client wants. And when you were talking earlier about how gold is in heaven, and this idea of gold in heaven, and I've read in the Bible that the streets are layered in gold. I think the idea, whether it's actual gold or not, I don't know, but the idea is the purity of it. And I think that's the nice thing about owning gold yourself. There is a purity in owning something by yourself. And especially in today's world where everything seems to be taxed or owned by somebody else. When you buy a stock, you're one of millions that own that stock. When you buy real estate, you owe to the bank and you owe to the government, the property. There's always people you owe. So I think that the part of the allure is the purity of owning something that is yours for you and your family, and whether you need it at some point, you can sell it, or if you give it to grandkids, a lot of people do that, or kids. A lot of people, especially this time of the year, they'll call us and say, I want to buy a little bit of gold for my grandkids. I think it's one of the great things that you could do in today's world is to give them something that gives them a net worth, that gives them some value, because most of the stuff that we buy our kids or grandkids is sort of junk, right?
Hmm.
It's not going to help them later. You know, if my kids don't need another pack of Pokemon cards, like they need stuff that's going to survive
Mm.
and hold value. And so I do think there's a renewed interest in, like, yes, you can buy things on your phone, you can buy things in a digit, you can buy all these investments this way, but what about if those things fall apart, or what about if that entity takes it, or doesn't pay you, or what if the bank doesn't give you what you owed? The bank is a company, right? And how do we know that they're doing the right thing? So it sort of gets the control back to the person and the individual, and I think that's the comfort. And so when people say that they prayed on it, they buckled, and then after they received it, they felt better and there was a relief, I think it's the level of control that they've gotten by acquiring this thing for themselves.
I think that's the operative word, control.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of talk, Bitcoin.
Sure.
You talked about the banks. What if a bank, essentially is bankrupted, and we've had bank closures. What happens then? So it's the uncertainty. You don't have control. I heard of somebody who bought, a lot of money or, you know, uh, it wasn't real money essentially, but they forgot that they had it, and it was all gone. And so it's dependent upon the transactioner. But once you get gold or silver, that's controlled. You control it. And I think in this day and age, and I'm speaking to our audience right now, if I may offer some advisement to you, is you need to have control.
Hmm.
You need to have control because what's happening today and in the future is a lack of control. You're going to lose control in many different areas. It's already happening.
Hmm.
You need to invest in what you can in a controllable asset. And that's not unbiblical to talk about money and finances. In fact, that is referenced in the Bible, certainly. And God wants you, it's not just simply a matter of prospering, it's a matter of you being financially secure in Christ, which He wants you to be. This is not prosperity theology,
Hmm.
friends. This is not prosperity theology in the least. We're trying to help you to weather the storm. And you've heard me talk about the storm. And this, I think, is probably one of the best, if not the best, ways of doing it. So, Collin, I so much appreciate you being with us today. Any last words of wisdom? Anything that you've heard from people who have had maybe some questions or concerns that you might lay in terms of buying gold or silver, and especially through you? Why should they buy through you?
Yeah, well, first I would check us out. I would call us, get some information, and read our reviews, and see how the experience is. And ultimately, I always say, when you're making a big decision, take your time, and we're not going to rush you. Many people tell us that a lot of times they actually have to tell the person on the phone, like, "Okay, I'm ready." That's the kind of relationship that I want to have with people, because I know that every financial decision is important, and you are a steward of your own destiny. And I think that's, don't feel that your financial advisor is in control and that you can't do it. You can do it. If you worked hard, you made this money, you can do with it what you want. You have to make decisions that are best for you and your family. And so I think the ultimate thing is that we care about people that do business with us. This is all we do all day. We live and breathe this. We're shipping millions of dollars a month. We've just about to hit 3 billion in total sales. So we've delivered
Wow.
2 billion. We have about a billion in IRA accounts. So we've done this a lot. So there is a track record and people can see us out there. So I would just say, like, if you want to learn and you're early, it's okay. Like, call us. Let's learn together, ask a lot of questions. And I think the best thing to do with anything is to get a lot of good information and stew on it, make and see if it feels like it's the right decision for you. We're coming up on the holidays, so I think it's a good time to call, get some information, and hopefully you have a little time to review it and see if this is, something for you and your family. But I guarantee you will enjoy the person that you're talking to. Everyone that we've hired, I've
Mm.
trained them. They've gone through my process. They know that I'm a family man. They know that the relationships are important. My relationship with you, Randy, is important. Like, we understand that what we're doing is really important, and we will take it serious, and and we'll try to make it fun and light, and joke and have a good conversation. But we'll give you all the information, and I think that you'll enjoy talking to the people in Noble Gold. That's the biggest thing that I hear, and that's the thing that I'm the most proud of as the owner and founder, is that people enjoy it and they feel like we're connected in this, because so many things are happening today where financial advisors and these companies, they just don't care as much. You just become a digit, and that's the last thing that I want. You're not a digit. You're going to become part of our family, and whether it's now or in a year or five, whatever it's going to be, like, we're going to be here. So that's really important to us. So I think it's a good time to learn. I mean, obviously the price is, it's spoken for itself, and the markets, but I think ultimately you have to feel like it's a connection with the company and the person that you're doing business with, and that's really what we pride ourselves on.
Yeah. I know that. I know that having interacted as our team has with Noble Gold Investments, and this is not a sales pitch. It is looking out for your finances. This is what this is about. I want you to be not just secure, to prosper in your own household. It's important for our community to do that. I can't emphasize this enough, that it's important for you to do this. And I don't typically, in fact, very rarely have I ever, and maybe this might be a first, have recommended a company to you. But this is one that I feel very comfortable with and confident in. And I think that you should pray about it, consider it, and this is, I'm staking my reputation on this as well. So, that's a heavy duty thing for me, because being in ministry as I was in business before,
Mhm.
integrity means everything.
Right.
And so, Collin, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Randy,
And
and really
any,
enjoyed being here.
any parting words before I?
I hope we could talk again soon. I know it's a busy time at the end of the year, and happy holidays, and Merry Christmas and everything to everyone. If I don't chat with you again before that, but it's been a real blessing to be here, and I've enjoyed it, and I can tell our energy and our spirituality is connected, and so I just it's really amazing to be here and be on the show with you.
Well, it's been great to be with you, Collin, CEO of the company, Collin Plume, and we'll be in touch and talk further about this as we launch into this period of time where we're going to help you to navigate through these times. These are very special times for us today. So I thank you to our listeners and viewers for spending time with us. And I guess I'm gonna have a special sign off here, and that is, I know that many of you watching have a relationship with Jesus Christ. That being the case, I want to leave you with some great news. Be of good cheer, because heaven is in your future. Take care, and God bless.